So, welcome back to the Dionysian Chronicles. I'm Lorenzo with my co-host Joseph. Today we'll be reviewing another session that has occurred with a participant here. In the last episode, we covered pretty much what exactly goes on during the session, what we're typically looking for in bringing on the purpose and so forth. Today we'll just mainly go straight into kind of the review of the session. But first, I'll allow Chris to introduce yourself.
I'm Chris Perguidi. I'm a comic book artist, pro wrestler, and psychedelic enthusiast, I guess.
Very cool. Could you go into detail more about stuff you get into with the wrestling, psychedelics?
I've been involved with pro wrestling and lucha libre for about 10 years, since about 2008 or 9, I think. And I've been doing that off and on for, like I said, 10 years. And I go all over the place wrestling. I have like a clown persona, and then sometimes I just have like a regular character, Topher Thomas, who's like the all-American guy.
Okay.
But I prefer the evil clown character, which is my real name, Perguidi the Clown. And then I do comic books. I do a lot of comic books. I've been doing that for about 20 years, since I was a teenager. And they are published by, now it's called Raven Press. They're published by a creator named Steve Crompton, who created the second role-playing game after Dungeons and Dragons, which is Tunnels and Trolls.
Okay.
So I work on a book with him. And the main book we're working on right now is called Cthulhu Crisis, which is a comic book that delves into the mythos of H.P. Lovecraft, obviously with Cthulhu in it.
Right.
Has a lot of independent superhero characters owned by different creators crossing over and teaming up to battle these arcane deities. And then, and of course, as you know, if your audience probably doesn't know, I'm super into the world of psychedelics and mysticism, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, I'm first going to play the song that we listened to during the session. This is Gershwin's American in Paris. And so this one is an 18-minute song. Here, try not to... And so... Now, initially, when we did our session, it was the first time that we had ever met each other.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We talked on the internet, but we hadn't met each other in person.
And so it was only through our friend James that we pretty much met, because I told James a little bit about what we were doing. And then he told you about what I was doing, and you seemed interested. So
yeah, it was very fascinating what you were doing. It seemed very interesting.
In sort of breaking the ice, I sort of talked about kind of martial arts stuff, because I have recently bought a punching bag and ski bag and so forth, and ended up showing you that before we got into the session.
Yeah. So we're both into martial arts.
Yeah, definitely. Joseph also used to do Choi Lee Foot.
Yeah, I used to study Choi Lee Foot for a few years. It's pretty cool. The conditioning and the training aspect of it is really refreshing, because lots of other martial arts is all about the forms, and they don't really teach you reactive or how to actually utilize what you're doing. And the whole thing about Choi Lee Foot is there's only 5 forms in the entire system, and most of it is just sparring and conditioning.
Freaking we got through that and talking, and then we sat down for the session. I guess the initial thing that, of course, recognize, and this is very common, is certain people will initially feel nervousness or anxiety initially, and the main thing I noticed with you in filling the space with talking, because I did a lot of that,
Yeah.
Now, this was the first time, and so far it's been the only time that I've done the session sober, without psychedelics.
Yeah.
And so,
Which is interesting because I'm the guy who's really into psychedelics, and then we did it sober together.
Yeah.
That was interesting. Like, it's the only one you done sober with.
Yeah.
That's kind of why we hooked up, because we were both interested in psychedelics and martial arts. But then we just ended up doing it sober. It was still interesting.
Yeah, that was the thing, because initially I was kind of concerned about thinking about what exactly would happen, and now throughout the time during the session and prior, I've pretty much allowed for people to talk during the session and be kind of freelance answer it with that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I will even throw in suggestions such as, imagine yourself in this environment, or imagine yourself with these people. There. Sometimes I'll throw suggestions, and the participant doesn't have to take that, doesn't have to go along with that, but they can if they want to. I don't necessarily recall ever suggesting anything there, but I do recall there were certain moments with the music where the horns really blared up, and I think that tended to intensify certain moments a bit.
Oh, yeah.
And so even with the softer moments here, they only last for so long, and I mainly initially spending time just mainly talking with you throughout the time, and I think you became really intrigued, especially when we were able to really finally focus. When I did finally explain like the sort of point of it all,
the purpose. What you're doing.
And
I didn't really know. James was just telling me, I got this friend. He does this stuff with psychedelics, and he's doing these experiments.
Yeah.
And I was like, look me up with this guy. It sounds interesting. He's looking for people to experiment on. I'm like, all right, let's go.
Sure, I'll be a guinea pig.
Yeah, I didn't really know what's going on, so I was like, okay, yeah, let's be a guinea pig for this guy.
But it was really cool though, because like as soon as I explained the purpose, then you're like, okay, this is something I can now gauge.
Yeah.
And so there were definitely moments where it finally could like make that connection, and I was kind of surprised by that because again, I was sober. We were both sober, and so normally if I'm on psychedelics, the site is just locked on from the get-go. It's just as soon as especially the left eye locks on, it's like I will hold that position until the end of the song.
Yeah.
Won't even move. It'll be
barely blank.
I'll be in the most uncomfortable position too, and I will still not move until the song is over. It is I've noticed that, and that probably might have intensified it with people a bit, because I mean, you now have this person sitting across from you who is now so still and is just piercing into you. Just in fact, that happened with another person too. But I do feel like doing it sober, pretty much. I'm not sure if it necessarily had the same intensity, necessarily, but I think what ended up intensifying it was more so the music than anything.
Yeah.
Mainly due to the horns blaring and so forth.
Well, because it lulls you into like a false sense of security. You're like, oh, it's quiet. This is how it's gonna be, and then all of a sudden, it's like a car horn going off. Like, oh, shit, what the hell is that? You're sitting here being mellow, and all of a sudden, the music's blaring out.
Although one thing I should have done was turn the volume a bit lower, because it was like kind of blaring.
It was really loud when we were in your place.
Yeah, it was pretty blaring. So I think I'll have to like keep in mind to turn it low for that.
So it was really intense because it was like super, super, super loud, and we're in this little enclosed space, just the two of us, and there's just this music blaring like you're in a movie theater or something, but you're like right next to the speakers. So it was kind of really intense. It probably would have been really crazy if you were on some sort of acid or shrooms or
like it just and then I just imagine it. But it was pretty much after the session was done. Normally, every session I start recording audio to form a dialogue, and so the main thing we tended to talk about initially was martial arts. And that was the main first thing that I figured, since it was the icebreaker, might as well delve in deeper. Primarily, I asked about the feeling that is put into movement.
Yeah, we did speak to that a little bit.
Yeah.
I can't remember what we actually said, but I remember speaking of it.
Right. And I note that it was at that point in time, it had been a long while since you actually did practice or did spar.
A non-theatrical martial arts. I do do wrestling, but that's more. I consider it more acting. I know other wrestlers will say otherwise.
Right.
And it will cause a big friction amongst the community, but I consider that more theatrical, but it is still physical. But it's been a couple of years since I've done any sparring or boxing. I was training over at a.k.a. for a long time, and I got stabbed. And on my face, and my chin was slashed open, and they had to stitch my chin back on. So I couldn't box because I couldn't have my face hit, and it was like that for about 6 months. So I couldn't train for 6 months, and then I kind of temporarily got custody of a child. It's really complicated. I was taking care of my daughter, but not biologically. So I was taking care of her, and then I didn't have time to train for about 2-3 years in any competitive martial art. Because I'll say, wrestling, it is very physical, and it takes a lot of technique, and it uses all the stuff you could use in real life if you tweak it a little bit.
Right.
But it's more theatrical, and it's not competitive.
Right.
It's you're putting a show on. You're working with the other person.
Right.
So it had been years since I've trained in any competitive martial art and met up. And then, of course, the last year we've had COVID. For almost a year now we've had COVID, and so not even allowed to really do anything in a professional setting. You can do it in the backyard or your friend's garage, but you can't go down to a gym like a.k.a. or a boxing gym. Or anything like that, or martial arts dojo, because you're just not allowed to. It's all shut down right now. So when we met up, it had been probably about 2.5 years.
Oh, okay.
Because I did anything. I think.
I
did anything. I think that's what we said.
Because I know that we went from talking about martial arts, and you had it was along the lines that you had talked about the years that had gone by since you really practiced due to the knife incident. We got into more detail about that.
Maybe it was even longer. I'm not even sure,
but I do remember the knife incident, especially like how it led how the conversation led into that. Especially because I know that a lot did happen around that time, and there were a lot of people you put trust in, and they somehow just treated you like, oh, this guy's a joke, or
because it was made a big deal in the media. I don't know if you probably know this, but this guy got stabbed playing Pokemon Go.
Oh shit!
That was this thing that happened in San Jose. It was a big deal. It was all over the media and the news. And I got jumped by these people. I actually fought them off and chased them away, which is why they didn't get arrested. And then I actually almost got arrested by the police because I went to the women's shelters where my girlfriend at the time worked. So I'm all bloody in front of the women's shelter, and someone called the police on me. And they tried to arrest me. But then like 2 weeks later, it got in the news because right when I got stabbed, I tweeted. Because I was making a joke that I was going to be the first guy to get stabbed playing Pokemon Go, because I would play in all these crazy places. But I actually just got stabbed downtown during lunchtime, right from next to the halal truck downtown, on 3rd Street. So I was, but I was playing the Pokemon game But for weeks I've been saying, I jokingly saying, like, I'm probably gonna be the first person killed or injured playing Pokemon Go, because I started playing from the day it started, and I was just going everywhere, and I don't really care about things, so I'm just like, okay, I'll go over here play Pokemon, and so I tweeted about it when I got stabbed, when I was waiting for the ambulance. I tweeted, I'm not even kidding, I actually did get stabbed playing Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
LOL. And then it was on Twitter, and it got retweeted. And then a friend of mine, which is James Myrick actually, who is like, he's well known for these weird beards that he creates.
Okay.
And so the media like kind of follows him. So someone on his Twitter from news companies saw his retweet of me tweeting about being stabbed. So about 2 weeks later, it got picked up in the news, and it was all over the place. You know, this guy got stabbed playing Pokemon Go, and then it became like a joke, and it you know, it was a really hard time for me, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because then it was like I was kind of getting made fun of for getting stabbed because it just happened to be playing Pokemon, you know. And
Yeah.
kind of hijacked my life for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And it put a lot of eyes on me too, so it also made a lot of difficulty because I was trying to raise a child at the time. So I'd have like CPS going all the time because they thought I was this lunatic getting in knife fights all the time. So they were like at my place all the time, like, you know, 16 like people down.
And I remember it was just the one time too, like especially like how you handled it, where you were able to kick the guy's knife out of his hand.
Yeah.
You know.
That did happen. The guy initially he pulled a knife on me. I mean, it's a whole long story. I don't know if I should tell the whole story.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had gotten off the bus in downtown. The bus was actually in Palm, so I got off a little earlier, and then I went around the corner on 3rd Street, around Original Joe's. You know, I got off somewhere near Original Joe's, I think, or off the light rail. This was like 3-4 years ago now, so I don't really remember where I got off. But I got off and I started walking, and these people that were inebriated or on some sort of drug, like probably meth, started yelling at me. And I was playing the Pokemon Go game, and I had it, and I was playing, and they were yelling at me, and I guess they thought I was recording them. At least that's what they said. I think they were actually just trying to distract me, so another guy could come up and take my stuff or something. I don't know. I don't know their motives. You know, I'm trying to talk to them. But they did. They came up to me and they were yelling at me, and then you know, I'm walking to my girlfriend. I want to get her lunch. You know, it's lunchtime. It's 12:30 maybe. So I'm just like, no, I don't have time for this. I'm gonna keep going. And the girl, it was a guy and a girl, and the girl took a water bottle. I think there might have been a third guy with him, but I don't know if he even was involved or he was just like, oh, some people are yelling, you know, and he's also just another, I don't know, criminal element that was downtown, that was watching, but it's definitely the guy and the girl were the ones that, the couple were the ones that accosted me, and then she threw a water bottle, like a full water bottle, like had a little bit of ice in it, you know, like when you freeze your water ball.
Yeah.
So she threw it at me, and it bounced off my head, but it wasn't frozen, you know, it was like kind of frozen because, you know, it was daytime. I thought it was kind of a warm day. So it bounced off my head, and I was like, you know, like I was mad, but I was like, it's a girl, so, you know, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go on my day. So I started walking, and the guy, he grabbed me and turned me around. I think that's what happened. But he had a knife, so I kicked the knife out of his hand. And I was like, well, what are you going to do without your knife? So I thought I was in the clear, you know.
Yeah.
And he was smaller than me. I was bigger then, you know. When you see these footage of me where I look really skinny after I got stabbed, it's because I wasn't eating. Because I was stabbed and I couldn't really eat. I was stabbed in the face, in the mouth. So you see this where I was really skinny, but if you look at pictures from me before, I'm like 220, you know. There's probably some old pictures of me.
Yeah.
And I was pretty big. And then I got stabbed, and I lost all this weight, and so when they interviewed me, it was most of the interviews were from a month after I got stabbed. They found me 2 weeks later, and then it kind of went viral during the next 2 weeks. So when you see me, I'm all skinny. But this was just like, you know, these were just, I hate to use the term crackheads. These were just like some sucked up drug users. So they weren't like impressive specimens in the first place. But so I kicked the knife out of his hand, and I was like, well, you can't do nothing to me because, you know, I'm bigger than you, and you're, you know. I'm not a tall person. I'm pretty short, but he was a short guy. He's probably the same height as me or shorter.
Yeah.
And so I just knife out his hand. I was like, well, I saw it going to the street too. So I thought I was in the clear. I thought, I'm good. I took the knife out of this guy's hand. He probably wasn't really going to stab me. He was just going to try to scare me. And I do think that was his original intention. He was going to scare me or whatever. And I took the knife out of his hand. He kind of triggered him. And then, but I was like, okay, I'm going to walk away. And I started to walk away, and he grabbed me again. And I thought he punched me in the face. I think I was telling you this. I thought he punched me in the face. But then I thought his punches were really weak because there was no pressure. But really, he took the knife and like lightning jabbed my face. So that's why, because it wasn't hitting me with impact. Because if you get punched, it's with force.
Yeah.
Off the bat, as you guys know. But it wasn't. It was with a knife, so it just punctured my face. But I didn't realize that, and he got me in the chest too. And I got all slashed up actually. But and then I fell to the ground because I was trying to walk backwards as he was swinging at me, and I tripped. I don't know if I tripped over my backpack or I tripped over the girl, or he did eventually get me with enough force that he knocked me over. And he's bragging, basically that he killed me, and I was just like, what's this guy talking about? Like, he barely punched me, and I kind of tripped, and it's like, so I just got back up, and then I scuffled with him a bit, but I didn't realize he had a knife. It wasn't like a tough guy thing. I thought I kicked the knife out of his hand. And then so I chased him and his girlfriend off, and I kind of fought with him a bit. I won't get into the details. I think we did in our session.
Yeah.
But I chased them away basically, and I came back. I was really thirsty. I was really down there originally to get food and drinks.
Yeah.
Because I was going to meet up with my girlfriends. I was going to get food and drinks, and then go meet with her. And they have a lot of food trucks at the time. Food trucks downtown. They don't now because of COVID.
Yeah.
But they used to have all these food trucks downtown, and they built these apartment complexes. What used to be a parking lot, I think, and now the food trucks aren't there.
Yeah.
So I was really, that's what I was there for. It was to get food. So I was just, and again, I did not know I was stabbed still. So I thought I had blood, but I thought it was my nose. I thought, he busted my nose open because there was blood coming out of my face, and I was like, or he busted my lip open, because it was right here. You can kind of see it, this part here where it's not growing hair.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see it. You kind of see it more now that I have a beard. So I actually just thought it was, it's a regular injury that you'd get. I might even bit my lip when I fell back. So I didn't really think it was a big deal. I was just like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm going to go get me a soda because I'm hella thirsty. And then I went up to the halal truck. And the guy was like, you can't drink this. I was like, why can't I drink this? And he was like, you look like you have two mouths. And I didn't really know what he was talking about. In between that, these kids came up to me and they were trying to tell me that I need to go to the hospital, and I just thought they were being wacky, right? These teenagers. So I just went to the truck, but they were following me the whole time.
Yeah.
But then I went to the halal truck, and he was like, "Oh, you look like you have two mouths." And of course, the trucks are made out of this corrugated aluminum that's shiny.
Yeah.
So I looked over and I realized that my chin was actually hanging off my face. It went through. You could see the muscle underneath. I'm not sure if you could see into my mouth through the hole, but it was hanging off because it's in between. It's just not going to have any. You're going to animate this later, but this area here is, like it was like this, but now the scars are like this now. So it was in between my chin and my lips, so it probably did go through probably, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So it was hanging off, and I was like, oh shit! And he wouldn't sell me a drink, and I was so thirsty because he was like, it's just gonna come out the hole. And
Yeah.
I was like, I don't even think that's how it works. So then the kids were trying to get me to go to the hospital, the teenagers, and then I was just like, oh, I want to see my girlfriend. My phone had died, and we had a date that day. I don't even remember when it was around. I almost feel, was it around? I feel like it was around some kind of holiday. Well, not exactly on it. I'm going to say, was it around Valentine's Day? Because then this would be a perfect time to do the interview.
Oh, man.
But I'm not even sure what it was. But I feel like there was something going up because I wasn't supposed to normally meet her. I normally didn't meet her for lunch for her work. So it was a weird thing because it was like, I normally didn't meet her for lunch for her work. I normally wasn't downtown that early. I was actually supposed to be staying in Gilroy that whole week. I had just moved to San Jose, but I was staying in Gilroy that week because my grandparents were sick. It was right before they passed away. And for some reason, I just happened to be there that day. So it was always a weird thing. So I feel like it was like some kind of holiday or an anniversary or something. But so I was like, okay, well, I have to go see her because it's whatever was going on.
Yeah.
I don't know the date. I just want to check that, so I don't want to feel like a liar. But I don't remember when it was around. But I remember it might have been just some like our anniversary or something. And then so I went to go. So I just went to her work, you know. And of course, I'm well. I don't know. So they stabbed me in the chest too. Yeah, they stabbed me in the chest too. Yeah. So they stabbed me in the chest too, which I didn't even notice. But then when I looked down, walking to her, there was this huge hole in my shirt, and I was like, oh shit! And there was blood everywhere. So I was like, oh no, I've been stabbed in the heart. I was like, I guess I'm going to die. But I was like, okay, whatever. I'll go see my girlfriend. So I just kept walking. And then, and then someone called the police, but I guess they called it on me. So I get swarmed by all these cops. And they're like, they're doing their job. I don't want to say they're harassing, but they were harassing me a little bit because obviously I have a hole in my fucking chest and my face. And the first cop's trying to get me to lay down on the ground and stuff. But then other cops come and they're like, what are you doing? Basically, you can't do that. He could have sued you. The ground's dirty. Like, what are you doing? Because I'm not even cooperating at all. I just sat down and said, I'm not doing anything you say. You don't see that my face is cut open and my fucking shirt's cut open? I'm the one who got attacked. Yeah. And my girlfriend came out, or eventually went in. I think when the cop was on me, I just went in. Trying to just ignore him. Maybe he was a security guard, actually. I don't know, because it was right by the campus, near down that 3rd Street, and there's like the college campus there, and there's a lot of security guards for food. So maybe he was a security guard, so maybe he had no authority whatsoever, and it wasn't even the cops' fault. I mean, that's what the cops kind of got on when he got back. But I don't know. I don't remember. Right. I might not have known then because I was worried about being stabbed. But I went back in and I got my girlfriend, and then she was in shock. She didn't even believe it was real. She thought it was a
prosthetic or something?
Prosthetic, yeah, she did. She thought it was a prosthetic, like it was a practical joke. And she was like, what went wrong? Because when she realized it was real, and she still thought it was like something to do with wrestling, or like we also make short films, but so I was like maybe some wrestling skit we were filming, and it went wrong. And I was like, no, some guy stabbed me. And she was like total shock. So we went back outside, and then other police came. Maybe they're the real police, and they were a lot more polite because they like could see that that I was bleeding all over the place. And obviously, I'm not gonna put my chest and face on the dirty cement. Like, who's gonna do that? It's like an infection or AIDS or something or some disease. COVID. Yeah, that's where the COVID started. Yeah, so I went to the hospital. They sewed me up. And I was all slashed up. I mean, I have scars. I think I showed you. I had like scars like all over. Yeah. Because when I was fighting him off, he still had his. I didn't know he had a knife. So when I was fighting him off, or actually I wasn't fighting him off at that time because I chased after him because I was mad. And so he slashed me all over the place. I have like scars on my. I think I showed you on my leg, on my arm, on my chest. The chest I think is actually the most noticeable one, and the one on my face. Just tiny little ones everywhere. Like I got in a fight with like. I don't know, like some kind of jungle cat. Just like clawed me up real quick. So yeah, I went to the hospital, and eventually it got to the media a few weeks later. And a few weeks later after that, then it was all over. Yeah. Because I basically did one interview, and then another one in the newspaper, and then like almost another month passed, but another guy got stabbed, and I think. They were like, well, let's talk to this guy more because he's the first guy got stabbed. So, and the other guy was like maybe like kind of like a YouTuber or something. So it was like kind of like a big thing. He got because he like put it everywhere. So they're like, let's talk to this guy more, the first guy. So I think that's what happened because all of a sudden it was like almost a month later, and that's when it was on the news the most. It was really crazy because it was like, oh man, people keep interviewing about this thing. Yeah. And then. Even a year after that, I was still being interviewed, and it was really nuts. And a year after that, almost 2 years later, was the last time I did an interview having anything to do with it. Wow. Yeah, and I was in Hollister, and they actually had a comic book out about my life, and so they interviewed me about the comic book in Hollister, and they mostly, of course, talked about stabbing. Yeah, so that's the Pokemon story. Told out of order, so they told it backwards, but...
No, we're gonna it's definitely a topic we got into.
I think I glossed over some of the details, so it doesn't match the other one. That's why. But
yeah,
you already went over this and that other thing because I think you're gonna upload those too, right? The sessions, or you're gonna keep those to your.
The actual sessions that we did record did get uploaded to Instagram, for example. So, well, mainly just the video one.
Yeah.
So you'll see the video session of just exactly how it went down, playing the music, staring into the eyes,
Yeah.
and then ending the session there. The audio are the ones that I mainly keep for myself.
Interesting.
And I tend to learn from that as well, trying to pick up, especially trying to see like even patterns in vocals, or trying to see like in where emphasis is placed on certain words or whatever. And so pretty much the other aspect I was about to say, so we went through the story. We got to talk about martial arts and seeing some of the confusions about either forms, or trying to delve into more of the feeling. The main conversations though that showed how curious you were pretty much after the audio recording, because then that was when I allowed him to ask me whatever questions he had, and pretty much at that point you're like, okay, so how exactly does all this work?
Yeah.
What exactly is your end goal here? Because it's a rare thing to come across somebody using psychedelics for this kind of purpose.
Yeah.
Most people are just going to either chase the high, or just come to like a get grand visuals out of it, and that would be the end of it. The interesting thing about it is, I've definitely I definitely had my moments on bigger doses. I definitely had my fair share of that, but I do tend to prefer having just a smaller doses, just enough.
Yeah.
And so far I've noticed that tends, because I mean, the last time I took shrooms was this Yoshi thing. My God, that kicked my ass so bad. But it was a good trip. It was definitely good.
Yeah.
But it was potent.
Knocked on your ass.
I mean, one stem, and it was just.
It was a pretty fat stem, though, to be honest.
It was fat. No, he's right. It was a fat.
I think there's a guy here with your food or something. Did someone order food?
Did you order food?
Oh, I didn't order food.
I'm going to talk to this guy, see what's going on.
He's at the wrong house. Oh, got another door behind me.
What's up? No, wrong house. What address are you looking for?
752?
I think that's down that one. I don't know where 752 is. I feel horrible.
That's where it took me to. It's funny that it took me to. I think it's that way.
Yeah, that's what I told him.
It's funny that it took. That's where it took me was 752. But it's funny that he probably typed in 752 and it took him here.
Oh.
So I'm almost backwards on the GPS or something.
Well, freaking on. So anyway, like it pretty much is interesting to see the lower dosages play out better for me as far as sessions go, and I guess the overall sort of outlook that I've been able to kind of discover and talk to you about.
It makes sense for what you're trying to do, because if you took too high of a dose, you wouldn't really be able to do anything.
Yeah.
You would just be in psychedelic land, looking at colors and creatures and
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
things and not really being able to focus on what work you're doing.
Definitely.
You know, but if you take too low, it doesn't do anything. You're just like, oh.
Yeah. No, definitely. Because I know one aspect I tended to talk about was like especially you talked about how you were able to come up with a metallic angel. I think it was.
Yeah, we're talking about that.
And pretty much because if you look at because I even talked about this with you, if you look at what angels really looked like in the Bible, it's like it's nothing like the usual media, like, oh, it's a humanoid like looking thing with wings. You know, it's like this crazy, I got eyes all over the body, you know, 3 pairs of wings, you know, kind of
One
deal.
leg.
One leg.
And sometimes they're described as being machines, is what I was telling you.
Yeah.
Or Ophrium, I think they're called, and they're like machine angel, almost like Transformers, basically. You know, that are made of wheels and cogs, and they have wings, and they have eyes, and they have another angel inside them, and all this weird stuff, like in the Book of Enoch, and in, I think in other places, in some of the non-apocryphal books, they describe the same angels.
Yeah. Freaking because I definitely used to have the Book of Enoch, the Infancy Gospel of Thomas.
Yeah.
And I think I had the Book of Jubilee.
Yeah, maybe the Book of Jubilee I was thinking of that actually had the wheel.
So I know those were the 3 that I had a major interest in at the time, because I mean, for Enoch, there's only one line in the whole Bible that talks about him at all. And then, of course, the Infancy Gospel of Thomas, I mean, was just an obvious goof. I mean, you just talk about a story about how Jesus was an asshole kid.
Oh yeah,
you know, like that's pretty much a story. Yeah, he just one chapter he just pushes a kid off of a roof and then brings him back to life. We're like, oh no, I didn't do that. Tell him that I didn't do it. And the kid's just scared out of his mind. And he's just like, he didn't do it. I swear to God, he didn't do it. You know,
don't do it again.
That's got to be the hilarious one. Then the Book of Jubilee is another hilarious one, because that one tries to go like, oh well, where did the 2 random women come from in the beginning of Genesis when there was no other women that was talked about?
Well, in the earlier Jewish texts, they had Lilith, who was the previous woman that existed, and so she gave birth to a bunch of other people, and I guess that's the explanation.
That's part of it too, and then eventually it winds up being like incest.
Yeah,
I mean, what a lot of people like either don't realize or just like ignore is that the Bible very specifically says that they were the first people in the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that they were the first people that were like outside, because once Adam and Eve like did their blunder, they got kicked out of the Garden of Eden and got sent to the land of Nod, where like everything was like bitter and the ground got cursed and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So there might be people there.
Yeah.
Already hanging around.
That's an interesting concept. Like God just experimented with everybody first and just like, nope, you're out.
Yeah. Well, even in some of the early Jewish texts, they talk about how God was creating and destroying worlds before he even got around to creating our worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a common like theme in Indian religions, where it's like the universe is going to be created and destroyed and created and destroyed. So.
Yeah. I mean, in the story of creation, God never creates water. He just hovers over the abyss that is water and separates it. Yeah. Water's already there. Fire's already there. They're just the leftovers.
Yeah. Pretty much. But yeah, we definitely got talking to about angels, because I brought up the point that it could be that when people, like, for example, like when the medieval person saw a vision of a machine angel, in the way that they did, chances are they called it like a metal angel in order to like convey what they understood, in order to like because what was around them was all kinds of armor, or still steel and swords and shields and armor.
And a lot of these guys in the Bible are carpenters and fishermen and sailors. They're building stuff all the time.
Yeah. And
that's
so
what they can pull from their subconscious.
So chances are they saw that, and then they conveyed, oh well, that had to be a metal angel made out of this material and that material, and that was what was familiar to them. Whereas some with us, living in the modern world, looking at cell phones and computers and all that, like it becomes that much. I think it ends up because that's the thing that I pondered about too, is like especially on the high dosages of psilocybin or psychedelics, when you really start to see, you close your eyes and you start to see geometric shapes pretty much just constantly changing into each other.
Kaleidoscopes too, which is kaleidoscopic.
I mean,
like the one everyone associates.
Exactly. And so I just imagine like if somehow that was connected to where that same sort of pattern changing sort of habit that happens on that could have been like the same thing going on in previous generations with the angel stuff, because I mean with what you're talking about, there were gears turning, there's all this very complicated stuff happening, and so I just imagine like that being like part of a pattern of almost explaining the pattern seeking nature of our minds, and going all the way back to antiquity, especially like they had to compare that to something, and then naturally that pattern seeking sort of aspect sort of took hold, and they're like, oh well, it moved like this, but it looked like this, or it just happened to have that pattern, but I don't know, it seems to be very similar.
It seems to be almost like a universal thing. Maybe something to do with Jungian archetypes you're tapping into when you're on this substance that's heightening basically your subconscious. It's heightening the artistic parts of your brains and creative parts, and I think the dream part of your brain. We all have these similar cultural references, and like I said, Jungian archetypes, which are supposedly universal. So
and your attention to detail. I was reading a study that compared taking psychedelics versus being sober, as like when you're sober and you look at a tree, you can like see an individual leaf, and like maybe you can tell if it's like turning towards the sun. But when you're on psychedelics, you see every single leaf moving at the same time with the same level of focus. And so it looks all like weird, like it's like waving at you.
Like it's moving around, which it is, but you just don't notice as much because it's heightened your awareness. So now you're seeing all the things. You're like, oh shit, the world's really fucking weird.
I can see the freaking air moving.
But it's always doing that. We're just not noticing. I think it's because it turns off the default part of your brain, right? Because your brain's always like censoring out information. If you take too much information in, you're like, you'll go crazy. Right? If you're doing it 24 hours a day.
But that's the other aspect too. Like, because I remember taking like LSD before, and there were certain people who I won't mention, but there's certain people that I either didn't get along with, or I usually would have arguments with or whatever, and on that stuff they ceased to be that problem that I saw them as before, because in many ways it allowed me to look past that and see the person as they are. It was and so far that's happened multiple times with the sessions. Even it was just like, okay, I'm seeing this person, as far as I can intuit, and as far as I can, as my focus capacity for focus allows me to.
It kind of goes back to what Joseph was saying about the trees with people. You can see all the machinations of a person's mind, and so like you're saying, something they're less threatening because you kind of understand them a little more. Sometimes they're more threatening though, because you go like, oh, this guy's right.
Yeah.
It's different.
Well, that's the thing too. Is like that stuff just makes you realize how much attention you tend to lack in everyday conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, just to the point where you're looking at just the most subtle gestures or body language. I mean, there's so much attention that's lost in sobriety.
When I've done LSD around people, or even I get different effects from each one, but for the LSD, you get to the point where you almost feel like you can read someone's mind.
Yeah.
But it's really you're picking up on all their movements and their mannerisms and little clicks when they talk that you normally wouldn't pick up on.
Yeah.
Tonality changes that you normally can't hear, because now you can hear. Depending on who you are, it makes you hear. It heightens your senses.
Yeah.
Some people it's the opposite though, and D heightens. Like I did LSD with a girl the other day, and it's the opposite. It was opposite for her. She had problems hearing while she was on it.
Huh.
And even seeing, but I think that's because she was having a visual experience. So she was seeing the visuals, but she was saying she has a problem hearing. But a lot of people, it's usually you get heightened.
Yeah.
So you're going to pick up on all these tonalities of people, so you can know their motives better. And then you have a little bit of your ego goes away, so you also don't take things so personal, like you were saying. We're just like, I have problems with this person, but then when you're on it, you're like, oh, they're not that bad.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like on psychedelics, it's almost like my bandwidth for dealing with people's bullshit just gets reset, and I'm just like, oh,
yeah,
I don't need to deal with this. I'm not going to deal with this. Okay,
Yeah.
I can still talk to you. I can tell you exactly what's wrong, but I'm not going to feel like bad about it anymore because, like, why should I? Why should I feel any sort of way towards a person unless there's like actually something seriously like wrong? Because if it's just like, oh, this person annoys me, this person's like, I don't know. Yeah.
And it's funny how upset we get just for people annoying us. That's the thing that
Yeah.
actually bothers us all the most in society right now.
Oh, God, it's like that one line in the movie The Alamo where Jim Bowie is talking with Lieutenant Colonel Travis, and he's like, sometimes it's just the way you say things, Travis. Swear to God. And he walks away. It is so funny. Well, I'm going to end things there. And I'd like to thank whoever is listening in the future for tuning in, and hope you're having a great day wherever you are. And so, see you later.